Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Power Nickel Live Summit hosted by Six. I'm pleased to introduce the speakers for today, Terry Lynch, the CEO, and Duncan Roy, the VP IR. Terry and Duncan will discuss today's press release, provide some company updates, and after that, we'll be accepting questions. As a reminder, you can submit your questions in the chat at any point during the presentation. As always, this summit is being recorded and it will be available to watch on Six.com. Without further ado, I'd like to hand things over to you guys to get started.
Well, everyone, it's a big day. Happy day here for us at Power Nickel and for all of our shareholders as well. So Duncan and I are pretty psyched about the announcement. I think it's it sort of comes a little bit out of the blue. I mean, we did tell people with the next money in would be strategic, and this is it. It's actually the first part of ultimately will be over a $7.5 million investment. And it will lead to ultimately having a feasibility study, prepared at Nisk. And there's several reasons why that's important. I mean, generally speaking, mining projects, start as an idea about what might be in the ground, and some geologist, some geophysicist comes up with some concept of why minerals are there, and they present maps like you see that are on the screen, and they say, hey, we think those little red things down there might have some prizes, and so you drill them, and that's the first step, so you got to ultimately have an ore body, and then if the ore body is really good like ours is, and this, so that slide there is an example just to refresh people's memories. Over the last 2 years, I guess, we've been drilling on our project, and we've had a number of really great results, and we call it the River of Nickel. And this is sort of this 1 square kilometer section that lays that out. And what was interesting for CVMR is they're looking for nickel, class 1 nickel, that they in turn can ultimately process through their procedures into finished nickel products. And what these guys do that's really interesting from our perspective, they make pretty much some of the top technical nickel products in the world, arguably. I mean, they basically the super collider up in Sudbury has several nickel tubes, so they're $10 million per tube, and they're made with 5 nines of purity, and these guys made them, CVMR. The US $100 bill is printed on a nickel plated money press, I guess, and the nickel plating was done by CVMR. So obviously their technology is top tier, and that technology gets superior pricing. One of the things we had put in the press release, that's sort of that was in our press release. And over on the left-hand pie is sort of what traditional nickel, miners get when they produce, a nickel concentrate. You get that pie, And on the far right, this is the pie that you're able to get when you're able to process the nickel into powders and anodes and wires and the various things that CVMR's refining process can do. So that is obviously a significantly bigger pie. I mean, we're talking almost triple. So if you think about it from just a general business perspective, there's to make maximum profit, there's several things that are directly correlated to maximum profit. So higher pricing and greater margins is definitely one of them. And this is what happens in this process: is you get higher pricing and greater margins. So that's going to mean for every ton of ore, we're going to get a lot more revenue, and that is going to be super profitable for us. And obviously, the more profitable it potentially is, then obviously it excites people to bankroll the investment to build a mine, because maybe you're going to be able to pay it off in 6 months or a year versus 2 or 3 years like for an ordinary mine. So that's what's really exciting about this, is that that's world leader in this space. One of the world leaders, certainly with the collection of names that they have, the U.S. Department of Defense, U.S. Department of Energy, U.S. Department of the Treasury, pretty much all the, General Dynamics and the defense contractors, and obviously the battery guys. So, I mean, they have a super high-end clientele, and they're telling us that they can't really make enough of their product, that they just need more supply to make it. So what they need as a supply is they need Class 1 nickel, ideally in North America. So certainly, from what, they're looking around, ours was, certainly a supply source that had not yet been locked up by others. And, and even though we've made this deal with CVMR and they will be, we're doing the feasibility and we think it will lead to a long-term partnership with them, we still maintain our free agency. And that was an important principle for us as a small miner. And they understood that. We said, guys, look, we want to, work with you and hopefully have a long-term relationship and build this mine and have you operate it and have our shareholders get these very healthy dividends going forward. But we need to be able to, if there's some, as we move this along, in order to keep, everyone honest and make maximum value for our shareholders, maintaining our free agency was a must. So there's no off-take agreement here. That's still to be had in the future by possibly other partners. There's still at the end of the day, CVMR probably will have 5 to 8%, through this agreement, and that'll be very healthy for them. And what most importantly they'll have is direct knowledge about how valuable the ore body is and what they can do with it. And I think what we're seeing on the screen is their economics are going to be better economics than what we could expect to get from traditional nickel smelters. So that's why it's attractive to us. It's just better business. And this is why we were able to come together and why we sort of, went the extra mile working with these guys. We just found them to be straight up, very frank and honest about how they approach business. They have, a number of joint ventures worldwide, 18. And, they have that because they're good at what they do, and they're obviously, good at what they do, and they do it in a fair way such that people are joint venturing with them all over the place because this is a practical approach to doing good business. So I mean, at the end of the day, we as operators of a public mining company, we're stewards of shareholder value. Really, we're trying to do is find the best way for our share price to appreciate, so all of our shareholders can benefit through their ownership in the corporation. And we think today's move, with CVMR is, the best move we've made so far. I guess the best move was buying Nisk and developing it because the ore body is fantastic. But then in order to create further value, to make sure that we get to the finish line and get the maximum bang for our buck, we need to be able to show a pathway to commercialization, and ultimately, at some point, possibly even commercialize the process. Which we could never do as a small nano cap miner. We just don't have the skill set. We can certainly find the ore. I think we're very good at that. I think we'll show that we're fully capable of doing a great job of exploring this deposit and verifying how big it can be. But obviously, making it into finished products, that's a whole different league. And there's only a very few players that actually know what they're doing there. That's the biggest guys in the business. The Glencores and the BHPs and the Valets and Wailus, etc. The Xinjians and so forth. Also CVMR. So the fact that we're able to start a really great relationship with one of them that will help us prove that this thing is feasible to develop and will be, we believe, super economic to do so. It's going to advance the project in leaps and bounds. And over a short period of time, I mean, they'll be able to do this over the next 9 months. And we think that'll really give the investment community a lot to think about in terms of, how far Nisk has come. And that'll allow us to keep on exploring. And, as Cameron, who's the CEO, Cameron Kozin of CVRM said, he said, really, there's two things that will make the value of this mine. One is how big is your deposit? And the second is, how profitable is your deposit? So the profitable side of the deposit is what we're doing now. That's the feasibility study of actually figuring out, if we take, a standard ton of our ore and we process that, there's several different ways to process it. And this process will actually, in the feasibility, look at all three of them, the hydrometallurgy, smelting, and the chemical metal vapor process. And basically, they'll each output a certain type of product and a certain type of product that has a certain revenue stream. So at the end, there'll be a cost base for, how much it costs to build each of those, and a revenue stream, and then you net present value them, and then you figure out which is the best. So it's interesting to note that when we looked at we were doing our due diligence on these things, and I'm looking at the Talon Metals, which is, we often refer to Talon, which has got a fine deposit in Tamarack, and it's called Tamarack, and it's in Michigan, Minnesota border. And Talon Metals, has done a PEA, sort of a preliminary economic assessment, and they looked at those three processes, smelting, etc., and they found that ultimately the highest NPV, highest internal rate of return, was on the product side that produced powders and the things that we think the CVMR process will do for us. So that was pretty interesting to sort of see that that's what they got, and this is what we sort of think will happen here, and that's why it was such a great thing for us to be able to bring this forward today, and to start the process to show the world how economic this thing can be, all at the same time as Duncan, I'm going to get you to switch us over back to the maps again, and I just want to talk about the what we're doing on the exploration side, because that's certainly what CVMR wants us to continue to do. Like, we've got enough ore probably to make a plant commercial day one right now, but what we think we can do is, we think that our project area is certainly got a ton of upside in terms of where we can go from here, and we've been working now with Fleet Technologies. They started about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We'll do host another podcast probably later in August on the Fleet technology and what's being done there, and so far it's been pretty impressive stuff. Yeah, just go down to the map, the broader map. Yeah, keep on going. One more. Yeah, right there. So this is our land package, right? And I think every one of you are sort of familiar that Nisk, Maine, we've drilled a number of holes there, probably about, I guess, 18,000 meters or so since we took it over, and that we expect to update our 43-101, get that out in early Q4, and we think that's going to show somewhere 8 million tons north, and 100,000 contained tons of nickel, and that'll be enough to be commercial. Now, that's just this one pod, and the way nickel sulfide mines work around the world historically is that there are multiple pods. Every single one that we're aware of that's ever been produced was multiple pods, so there's highly likely this will be the same, and we've obviously proven that with some of our step outs. So go up one more slide, Duncan. No, one the other way, the other up.
Yeah, the other up. Okay.
Good. Yeah. So this is where we had stepped out 5 kilometers to the I guess the north and east, and we hit this bonanza hole of almost 8 meters of 1 ounce palladium platinum, which is above our massive sulfides. So pretty indicative that there's this whole area is charged, and there's likely to be we believe a lot of very valuable metals there, both nickel and PGMs, that we can produce within our plant complex. And we're actively working now with Fleet and with other techniques to identify that. And I saw the early stuff on Fleet last week, and was pretty eye-opening, really, for us just to see the initial visualization of the main deposit at depth, and it was quite interesting to see where we had hit, and then where we missed a couple, and what it looked like where we missed and why we missed, and now we saw wow, we see clearly that the thing just dropped off, and then but what was interesting is that just on the other side of the misses where looks like another horizon of good stuff. So obviously that'll be stuff that we'll be testing, but I mean it's really sort of powerful to be able to look at it with these technologies. And I think that was what was impressive for CVMR when they decided to invest, is they thought that we were going at things the right way, and that this was ultimately going to be a much bigger project at the end of the day, and that they could by getting in early, providing us some leadership and guidance on how to possibly commercialize it, they could get a good opportunity to become our partner going forward and to create value together. And at the end of the day, all we want to do is create value for our shareholders, and do that with good people and good investors and good partners. So I think we're off to a pretty banging start, and maybe now would be a good time to turn it over for questions from the audience and see where they'd like to go with the questions, Max.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Terry. So the first question here is this the same process that Tesla plans to use with Talon?
Is this the same process? I missed the last part.
Yeah, that Tesla plans to use with Talon.
I couldn't really say. I don't know enough about the Talon process. They just finished the PEA, so they'll be going through, their feasibility or pre-feasibility study now, and that's when you probably get into more of this. They certainly looked at 3 different types of processes, and one of them would have included this. So this was the one that looked to have the best economics, was on the powders outputs and stuff like that. So that was what was in their PEA. So you can go over to the Talon site and look at that. It's pretty evident that that's the case.
And the one thing in common really is also Fleet. So we're both using Fleet. These guys have had the first crack at it, and it's been significant in helping them find additional resources and do it more efficiently. And so the expectation is that we'll be having similar kind of success and usage of funds to do our work.
Awesome. And another question here: will they probably CVMR also be technical advisors for PMPN, so to say?
Yeah. So I mean, basically, they're going to be obviously providing all the engineering and technical input we need to develop, a series of studies that will lead ultimately to a feasibility study, and they have internal engineering resources, and at the end we may also add in an external resource, when we go to print it out, so to speak. So, but they have the full capabilities in-house to do it front to back.
Okay. And what's happening with the ANT, ambient noise tomography?
So the ambient noise tomography is what we is basically a technology that's owned by Fleet Space Technologies. So when Duncan was talking about Fleet being used by Talon, that's how we found out about it, and we're using it now. And so we've been using it. I guess it's been in operation for about 3 weeks or so, and we're obviously getting data back now. And it basically we've got about 100 geodes, and they're spaced in almost 100-meter grids. Each unit, and then it's sort of like done in a checkerboard pattern, and you basically send your sonar pulses down, comes back as a sound map, and it's captured, and then it's correlated, with the with the scientific data we have for that particular area. So obviously we started first over our core Nisk main, where we have all the drilling collars and azimuths and drill results, of course. And then we move further on up. And then, as we move away from where we have known drill results, we have other, technical results like, downhole EM, airborne EM, IP, gravity, etc. So they can still correlate with that as well. So it's interesting to sort of see how it can all be sort of brought together. And then we'll take it all the way up to the very end of our project where we drilled the 8 meters of the Bonanza hole. So that's, in fact, I think that's being done next week, where the fleet will be looking at that. So that's the ambient noise tomography that was referenced in the question. So that's where things are at with that.
Awesome, thanks. And can you talk a little bit more about CVMR's track record or background?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're a private company, so they're building right now. I think there's a $2 billion facility in Amarillo, Texas, that is a rare earth metals processing facility that they're in discussions to build. And then they bought the land, and I think they're going through the process with the government down there. And then they're also doing another multi-billion-dollar project in Burundi in the Congo, and they've got currently 18 plants operating around the world in the United States, in Canada, in Africa, in the Middle East, in Russia, and in China. So they're a global operation, and they make everything from the nano powders for 3D printing and batteries and stuff like that, but also for coins and for treasury, for the nickel plating of the dollar. They make unique nickel objects that are highly technical, like the super collider tubes. They make anodes. They make wires. They're if you go to their website is it's a private company website. But they got a very impressive client list there. Anyone can go in there and see everyone from General Electric to General Dynamic. The U.S. Treasury. It goes on and on. U.S. Department of Defense and so forth. Barrick. They're just the who's who, really. So so they're a substantial, profitable, big organization doing some big things. And the principle behind it was interesting enough. I think he was born in, I believe, if he wasn't born in Saudi Arabia, he's of Saudi Arabian descent, and ultimately spent some time in, I think, Austria, and then was raised in England, came to Canada early on, and got involved over here and worked in the government here for many years, at a senior level, and left. He was a chemist, I guess, by background, or he had some knowledge of the space and through his work, and had seen this technology and with Inco, and I think Inco initially was one of their shareholders back in the day, and they started the CVMR maybe 25 years ago or so. And then, they've had just an amazing run of it. They've kept it private, and it's been a very, I think it's been a very good business for he and his sister who own it, and it's, they've grown it to, one of the largest concerns in the world. And, but, super practical, hardworking people that have done well. And obviously have, if you go to the website, you'll see some of their accomplishments. You'll see that they're held in pretty high esteem everywhere they go, and because they're doing this cutting edge work and doing it well. So I think it's I when I was initially introduced to them, I thought I'd never heard of them before, and I thought, wow. And then when I went and saw all they had done, I thought, it's so surprising that they haven't been front page news for some of the things they've done. But I guess, when you're private, you don't really need the headlines. You just go out there and do your thing. So that's the difference. But yeah, in terms of capabilities, wow, very impressive.
Yeah, it does sound very impressive. Thanks. Any visual indication on the August drilling, or are you still evaluating where to drill?
Yeah, no, we're actually drilling right now. So we'll put out the we thought everything is. I swear I'm going to write a book. And the title of the book is "It Always Takes More Time." We signed the contract with CVMR on August 2nd, and silly me, I thought this would be out shortly thereafter. But there's always regulatory hoops to jump through and so forth. So here it is. Almost 2 weeks later, we get it out. So we're a little bit behind in our press release schedule. So next thing out will be the that we'll advise people that we've been drilling, and we're drilling now, and we'll keep on drilling. So that's happening. And then obviously, as we're drilling now, we're getting real-time feedback from the fleet. So, we can see the first initial holes were designed before that because we had some unrealized targets that we wanted to get to, off the hop. So that was our first, start. But then going forward, our plan was to start to incubate or incorporate, the technology from fleet into the drilling program, and we'll be doing that in real time.
Awesome. And another question here: what happens at the end of the 9-month agreement with CVMR? So,
basically, first and foremost, what we expect to have happen is the feasibility study will release that to the public, and it'll be we hope show that this is a highly economic project to build, that it'll cost X, and that the returns will be toward, I would think, north of 50% IRRs, and possibly much higher, and with significant NPVs, and the NPV total will obviously depend upon the ultimate tonnage. So, but I've been on record of saying this will be $1 billion deal before the end of the day, and I'm not going to change that record. I believe that now more than once. So I think that'll be one of the outputs of that. And then at the same time, you have to sort of make sure that the mine makes sense commercially. And then, of course, in order for it to make sense commercially, you also have to go through a number of permitting steps. Excuse me, what's that? Pardon me.
Bless you.
Excuse me, I knew that sneeze was coming. My apologies. So, at the same time, we'll start to, work on the permitting side of things, to, go through the processes with the environmental steps, to work with our Aboriginal partners, the James Bay Cree, and to work through the community relationships and how we can, make this a win for everyone. And at the end of the day, what we want to do here is turn Nisk into the world's first carbon neutral nickel mine. And we think it'll produce some phenomenal products that are going to be much needed in our society. And we think we can do it in a very, cost competitive way, in a very environmentally friendly way, the most environmentally friendly nickel mine in the world. And that's our objective. And that's what we wanted to do. So, and we think that working with CVMR will really help us do that. And then at the end, once this is all sort of, once we get this output, there'll be, obviously a certain amount of capital will be required to build this thing. And then it'll be, okay, who will be the partners to build this? Well, obviously, we're gonna own the ore body, so that we're going to be one. And then it's like, obviously CVMR would be a very logical group to look at to possibly, build the thing with and operate. So we'll look at, that. I'm sure they'll look at their whole economic situation, see if it makes sense for them. And I mean, that's where the deal making side comes in, and that's where the free agency thing keeps everyone sort of honest and keeps other people possibly at the table. And this is where other partners could possibly come in. Like there's obviously a number of offtake, interested parties, whether it be, battery manufacturers that are in our, data room right now, or big auto manufacturers that are wanting to get access to the Class 1 nickel. for their cars. So they'll all be part of the mix, so these are things that'll be developed, but in order for it to make sense for anybody, that they all need to see that there is a logical, coherent, normal course process to build a plant and a refinery process here that makes good economic sense, that justifies the investment and can deliver the output of products that are needed, and that we can make a significant return such that we can finance this, whether through equity or other types of investment. So that output we'll have in 9 months, and then we'll obviously be looking to advance it forward from there.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Terry. So that looks like all the questions that we have for today. So thank you both for taking us through the updates and the Q&A session. Also want to thank everyone who submitted questions. Feel free to also reach out to Terry directly and submit more questions that you may have. Today's recording will be available to watch on demand in the coming days, so feel free to look out for that. And before we wrap up, I'd like to pass things back over to you two for any closing remarks you'd like to make.
Dunk, I'll let you take the first shot.
Well, I'm just curious what the title of your book's going to be. But it's we look at this project and we're all pretty excited about it. But when someone else comes in from outside and comes to the same conclusion, I mean, that's a pretty strong message. And it's with these guys, with their level of expertise and reputation, it's certainly the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. I suggest to people that the real issue here with this Nisk project is time. And what this deal does is really quickens up the amount of time it's going to take to get to fruition here. And that's a big deal. Like, mining stories can last a decade before you get from A to Z. And in this case, we're going to change the time frame significantly here. And that translates into money at the end of the day. So that I think is incredibly important.
Yeah, I think Dunk hit it on the head. I mean, that's what was really impressive for us. I remember talking to Cameron, the CEO of CVMR and the principal, and I said, well, because this is my first nickel deal, I said, don't we need to go through PEA and then pre-fees? And he says, well, you can if you want. It's super expensive, and it ultimately ends up with a lot more dilution for your shareholders. But he said, I think you really got enough to be a mine here. And so you can cut to the chase and do the feasibility study now and save your shareholders a lot of dilution and get this thing out the back end a lot quicker. And I was like, I never really thought of it like that, because that's typically not how it's been done in this space. But, at this point in time with the green revolution and the urgent need for Class 1 nickel, I think BHP put out a commentary just a couple of weeks ago where they basically said, I think by 2030, they need 4 times the amount of nickel that's being currently produced. Well, there's no chance in hell we'll ever get there, because you just can't find it and produce it that quickly. But it just goes to show you just what's needed. So if we really want to, make an impact and sort of provide jobs for our citizens in the battery metal space, they're going to need Class 1 nickel and obviously lots of copper and graphite as well, and cobalt. But we can certainly provide some of that now, and this is an accelerator to get there and get there quickly. So that's good news for us, and hopefully good news for our shareholders in the longer term. And hopefully people will start to realize that as we get out there and now take this story out to the funds and the family offices and the shareholders we currently got, and just explain to them what this means and why it's should be a really big win for us.
Awesome. Thank you both, and thank you everyone for participating. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thanks again, Max.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.